All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Please do the roll call.
Jim? Philip?
Yes.
John?
Here.
Chris?
Here.
Marita? Heather? Here. Sally?
Present.
Okay, in the interest of public transparency, Heather has a comment here.
I had an ex parte conversation with our chairman. I had a question about the four Keegan subdivision applications. They all were submitted with the same proposed survey and information, and two have been withdrawn. The two that the purpose was to dedicate the highway. And so I had a question about procedure, I guess.
What is your question?
Well, my question was that when mental health is now withdrawing their replat, the way I read it, their applications to replat concerning the dedication of the highway, but we'd already approved the subdivisions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're asking, is it approved for the subdivisions? Even though the replat's been withdrawn, does this change anything, I guess?
Exactly.
So I guess the question would be to Liz on that. Could you please elaborate, Liz?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. So they did withdraw the applications. They reviewed the issue with their title chief, and the chief said that the replat was not necessary because DOT already had ownership of the right of way. And so it was redundant for the replat. I'm trying to get a copy of the title chief's determination, but they have not sent it to me yet. If for some reason I can't get a hold of it, I will let them know that the initial minor subdivision that the commission approved, there was a condition on it that they would file this replat and dedicate the highway. And so I do need some documentation from them showing that that highway is dedicated as a right of way. And so, but they are the applicant, and so they are within their right to withdraw. I think we just have to have the paperwork to catch up with that action. And hopefully I'll have it by the next meeting and I can report to you that all is well. So we'll see.
Okay, yeah, I guess we're just confused a bit about the fact that it was applied for with the highway as being part of this and was approved with the highway being part of this. And then having the highway part being withdrawn kind of changes the way the application was originally put in. And I guess Heather's got a question about that, is what has come up. So.
Right. And initially, both the Trust Land Office and the Department of Natural Resources insisted that the Trust Land Office owned fee simple ownership of the land, and that DOT only had an easement over the top of it. And that's why we're going through the replat to do the dedication. But since then, they've reversed that position and said that DOT actually does have ownership in the right of way. I'm willing to put a hold on it, until I get the documentation from them showing that that is in fact now the case, and that's DNR and the Trust Land Office's current position, that the right of way is already intact, and then it would be redundant to do the replat. Hopefully that clarifies the issue.
Yeah, I think it was just a question of the information that was presented to the Planning Commission was when the original replat was requested was different from the actual facts. And that's why there's an issue being brought up, is that would that have changed the decision made by the commission on the replat? That's all. I don't think it would make too much of a difference, other than that it does make us, it's just a little bit different information, but I think that's what Heather's concern is. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so,
I think the end result is the same, like where we were trying to
Yeah.
get to is the same place. It's just,
yeah,
they had a change of heart or had new information come up that changed their position on it. Yeah.
yeah. All right, thank you, Liz. Okay, any other comments about this? All right, moving on. We have had a request to change due to this, the public hearing items, both A and B being removed from the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as modified?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have any amendments to the minutes from the previous meeting?
Move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have any public comments that are unrelated to agenda items for today's meeting? Hearing none, we'll move on. On the consent calendar, we have initiation of a rezone from rural residential to single-family residential at 1016 and 1020 Sandy Beach Road. We also have acceptance and scheduling of an application from Marissa Collison for a conditional use permit for home occupation at 104 Lewis Lane. Do we have a motion to accept these for next meeting?
Move to accept.
Second with a question.
Certainly.
It says home occupation, but isn't it a home business?
Yes, it probably should be listed as a home business.
Because, it's a residential whole
Right.
neighborhood.
So, all right. Any other comments, questions?
I just took it for
Yeah.
granted it was a business.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing items, we have stricken both A and B. So we are moving to consideration of an application for, or from the Petersburg Children's Center for conditional use permit to allow parking spaces to be on a lot within 500 feet of the use at 306 North Fifth Street. And I think they also would, well, we also have in there tied to it, consideration of an application from Petersburg Children's Center to a rezone of lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 from single-family residential to public use at the corner of North Fifth and Dolphin Streets. Do we have any public testimony to this? Hearing none, do we have a motion on the conditional use permit? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the application for conditional use permit to allow the Petersburg Children's Center to use lot 4 for 9 off-street parking spaces as required for expansion. Do you want to do them both at the same time?
No, let's just do them one at a time. That way it's nice and clear. Wait a second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Would you please do the roll call?
Philip,
Here.
Do you
John?
propose- Yes.
was that a yes? Okay. John? Chris?
Yes.
Marita?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the rezone of lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 from single-family residential on the corner of North Fifth and Dolphin Streets?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
public hearing, just open a public hearing quickly in case someone wants to make a comment on it
Yes.
before you do the motion.
Okay, there any public comments on this? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
move to recommend the Borough Assembly that lots 3, 4, 5, 6, block 66 USS 1252 be rezoned from single-family residential to public use with finding as a fact as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. You please do the roll call.
Sally,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Marita,
Yes.
Philip, John,
Okay, moving on to consideration of an application from Josh Etcher for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a net house in a single-family residential zone at 112 Cornelius Road. Do we have any public comments? Please step up to the microphone and state your name.
Hi, I'm Tom Kowalski. I live on Cornelius, and I considered this application, it's on my street, and it's for, I guess, some net shed, a very large net shed that wants to be built. And looking at the drawings, it looks like that particular placement of the net shed is right on top of a fire hydrant in the northwest corner of that property, whether it be 2, 3 feet away from it, it's still pretty close. I just wanted to bring that point up. I think it's in my letter to you guys.
Mhm.
Another thing I wanted to say is that Cornelius is a residential neighborhood. The whole street, all of those lots are single family. There's a couple of multifamily lots on the northern end. And yes, there is a precedence of bait sheds on that road. The folks that have operated those sheds, they do it very respectfully. They built their sheds in the back of their properties. You don't even notice them a lot of times when you're driving up and back. This particular situation, the guy wants to build it right on Cornelius Road. That's a precedence I don't want to start. I'd like to keep a buffer there. Cornelius Road is it's a pretty rough road. It's got potholes often, deep. And someday we might want to fix that, add some pipes or drainage or something. We're afraid if we allow folks in their commercial endeavors to build too close to the road, we won't have that option in the future. So, and I think I'm speaking to the next. I think this is a multi point. I think there's there's 2 parts of this. I think one is building the commercial building and the other is building too close to the back property of the line. So I'll speak to the building to the back property of the line when that comes up. But anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to say is, I understand these folks want to increase the value of their property. And unfortunately, if everyone who has property out there that hasn't built a home yet builds some sort of commercial endeavor, I'm afraid that my property value, my home, will actually depreciate. So yeah, we've got some bait sheds built back there, and we live in harmony. And if this were to maybe become like the others and built in the back of their lot, and they treat property respectfully, I think everything would be fine. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Thanks for your testimony.
Sure.
Are the folks up there that have these net bait sheds or whatever you want to call them, are they all commercial fishermen that live up in your neighborhood that have these net sheds that are for their use?
I can't tell you whether or not all of them are, but I can say most of them.
Yeah, I think originally this came from the fact that most fishermen couldn't find storage around town, so they asked for permission to build
Mhm.
gear sheds on their property, and that's where this came from in the past. So anyway, I
Yes.
was just reflecting back. Thank you.
And I'm glad you said that. I actually remember talking to somebody about this particular situation, and it may be that he wants to rent these units out, which would be different than what is being done now as far as setting precedence goes. If, I don't even know if that's allowed or, or what, but it is different. It's not the same as what's occurring there now,
Yeah.
I believe, anyway.
In other words, what people are doing now, they're using the sheds that they built for their private personal storage, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
have a comment. So I was up there yesterday. I was one of the first ones to build a warehouse up that road. I'm on the left side of the road going up. He's on the right. Yes, there are a lot of potholes up there. If you go further up on the same side that they're talking about building the shed, there's a building up there. I don't know who owns it. It says FV Elution on there, if anybody knows who owns that boat, but the setback seems probably the closest building on that road to the road, as far as, you know, the building being parallel to the road, just like they want to do this one. You know, what happened to, know what the setback is on that? Is that,
Well, I want to say it's close to 20-ish feet, maybe 25 feet.
so this setback,
Maybe
they
30.
want to change this to 10, which would be right alongside that road,
Correct.
which, isn't, is there a ditch along that side?
There is a ditch, yes.
So if there's a ditch, then it starts on the roadside of the ditch, that 10 feet. So the 10 feet would include the ditch
Well, the pro-
width or not?
The property
And it's
corner-
not a proper ditch. It's just,
Yeah, it's, that-
nothing's proper about that road. It's
Yeah,
what they
no,
built a long time ago. It's
it
never
was,
changed.
and I was under the impression that entryways in the lots are supposed to be a maximum of 20 feet, but if you look at most of those lots up there, the entrances are anything they wanted them to be.
Mhm.
So there's not a lot of ditch line, and there is quite a drainage problem up there
There is,
when it really
yeah.
rains.
We're gonna have to fix that at some point.
I have another question. Mr.
Yes.
Chair. Is that road a certified city road, or is that still a private road that,
It's a private road. There was an attempt to get all of the property owners to sign off, to give that road to the city's responsibility. And that attempt failed. Not everybody wanted that to happen. I wasn't here when that happened. I don't know. So,
The road was built when the boundary of the city was at 1 mile. And that's at 2.8. 2.28, because my mom's at the bottom of the hill. My mother's house is on the beach side at the bottom.
I have a
It's a
question.
pioneer road, they call it.
Does the city plow during the snow up
yes,
through there?
absolutely. The city maintains the road to the point where emergency access is available to the homeowners up there. So they plow, they will fill the holes occasionally, and maintain drivability at least for their emergency service vehicles can get up there.
10 foot.
So addressing your question about whether it can be rented, I think there is a condition on that. They applied for this a couple of years ago and didn't see it through, and there was a condition that it could not be rented as a commercial property.
I know he's trying to rent space on that property.
Yes,
and has
yes, and it's being done
advertised,
by a
He has-
rental. Well, it's 4 and 4
yes.
rentals, which I don't know who polices that kind of stuff, but how do you know that someone's renting or not renting? I don't know.
Liz, I have a quick question for clarification on this. I think I figured it out, but I wanted to clarify that these are two applications they're not for two different buildings on the same lot. It's either one building or a bigger building in the same location. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So the first one is for an 85-foot long building. The second one is for a 105-foot long building.
Right, so the first one's a conditional use permit just to allow construction of the
Right.
net shed, and then the second one is the request for the variance to allow a larger.
Okay,
The
that's just what I
applicant-
wanted to clarify so everybody
Yeah.
understands what we're discussing here.
And so there's nothing being built in the back of it with all this 89 or 75 feet back here. Because it's a 100-foot lot and you're building 30. I guess it'd be 60 feet in the back.
Well, this is,
This is just empty.
this is the road, so this is coming along the side.
Yeah, but
So
it's
this is to be
empty.
able, yeah, to be able to
I mean,
pull in,
It would be
Yeah.
within
right?
10 feet of the front and 10 feet of the back if the variance.
If you
which
go
would
with,
come up
if you go
next.
with the 105, yeah, that's, I'm
Okay.
just trying to clarify here to see what we're talking about,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Move all of my comments to the next one. It's the 100 and whatever.
It's
103,
fine that
but
we could
yeah,
discuss it, because they're kind of connected,
Yeah,
so
they
it's,
are. I
you
didn't
know.
realize that that other one was a shorter building. The one I'm speaking to now is for the shorter building, but some of my
Right.
comments can apply to that as well.
yeah, I was confused when I first saw it in the packet, but now that I'm looking at it a little bit more, I'm getting it figured out.
Looks like a
So-
double barrel approach here.
Yeah,
So basically, they're saying if you don't approve one, would you approve the other? Is that what they're saying?
well, I think that's what they're saying is, would we approve one or the other, so,
We have to approve the conditional use first
right,
before considering the variance.
the variance. So,
Yeah, okay.
so I just want to make sure everybody understood what was being discussed, because I kind of just figured it out.
Basically, we're on the conditional use.
We're on the conditional use right now, is to whether or not to build the net shed, and then the second one is how big can that net shed be? So,
And it's for the purpose of rental? Are we to
Well-
consider that part of it during the
Oh.
CUP?
It's his personal use.
that's what he's applied for, is for personal use, not for rental. So,
Yeah, what confused me is it's applied for by a 4x4 rental company owned by Mr. Etcher. So that
It's-
set some red flags up. And how do, like Mr. Meek said, how do you monitor that they're using it for personal storage? You have a police officer go by there every once in a while and make sure the nets in their shed are theirs only and not rented. I'm just curious how you enforce something like that. It sort of adds complexity to the whole program. Like one of the letters we got from the public said, if this is gonna be legal, let me know, because I want to start doing it too.
Exactly.
So, that's just that's my consideration. And I'm a little sensitive about big buildings going up in R1 because I have a big building out in front of my house that's was passed by the planning and zoning. It just, it's been in the stage of construction for probably 7 or 8 years now, and it's still not completed, and it looks like it's falling apart instead of getting finished. So I'm just a little sensitive about these kind of permits. I do understand that the company that's applying for this does rent property, and I have property that I rent for storage too. So I just wanted to make sure that it's done by the way for their application. It's not for rental, it's for their own private equipment and stuff. And they do have a lot of equipment, so I'm probably sure they can be enough room for most of their stuff. Thank you.
I have heartburn with the 10-foot from the property line, because if this is going to be a boat shed with heavy equipment and stuff stored in there, when you're leaving or turning around, you're in the road, turning.
We actually still need a motion to
Yeah.
discuss as
if we're
well. So
getting
if-
into discussion, it's basically, we're in questions for, at this point. Thank you, Liz. So if we have any further questions?
We're still on the variance.
We're still on the variance,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Conditional
So-
use. We're on
Conditional.
conditional
Yeah,
use.
or
Thank
conditional
you.
use, not the variance, excuse
Conditional
me,
use
right.
first.
I just have one more question directed toward Liz on this. It sticks in my mind that there's something in the fire code about buildings over 2,500 square feet, if they're going to be worked on, people are gonna be doing any work on anything in them, that is not allowed. You can only be used for storage, and if it goes over 5,000 square feet in storage, then it kicks up to another level, and as I recall, it's fire sprinklers for both of those. So, both of these buildings that are being requested are over 2,500 square feet. One of them is just barely over, one of them is, like over 3,000. So, I just have a question, is that the case?
Well, because it's in a residential area, normally we wouldn't be applying IBC, where you would get into people working on things, right? We're looking at the
Right.
residential code. So we wouldn't be applying those commercial or industrial code.
Right, I just
applications.
was curious, because as soon as you go over that 2,500 square feet, and what's to stop somebody from doing work in that building? Because then you're increasing the fire risk. If people are doing any type of work in there, then it can cause an issue. So that would be my concern of it. Just,
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to really stop
it's- it-
anyone once you, and I also have to say too, that it should not be used to store heavy equipment. You know, NetShed has a very specific definition that is in your staff report that is related to fishing and fishing gear, and that's what a net house is. So there should not be, you know, backhoes or, you know, dump trucks or anything like that being stored in that net house. Again, though, enforcement is certainly problematic for us. We don't really have resources to do a lot of enforcement, and we generally have to go by what people tell us. We're not gonna, you know, it's hard for, it would be very difficult for us to chase down to figure out whether someone was leasing unless, you know, someone came forward and, you know, told us that they were leasing. You know, we don't do a big investigation, and we don't really have the resources to do that.
thank you, Liz. Okay, are there any further questions anybody has? No further questions? Do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the application for a conditional use permit to allow for construction of a net house for personal boat storage on 112 Cornelius, along with the findings of fact and conditions of approval, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And until I'm more educated about this issue, I'm gonna be a no on this one. I know it's just a conditional use permit, but I definitely don't like the size of the building, and I'm not sure whether they're gonna use it for page storage or not. It does look like it meets the criteria for the easement, but until I feel like I'm more educated on that, I can't approve of this, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to give you my
Okay.
reasoning.
Yes.
Well, the drawing says boat shed, but they say net shed, so, because is it, if it's gonna be a net shed, is it gonna be only fishing gear?
They stipulate that they have 8 boats.
Boats,
If I read it
so we
correctly.
should call this a
Personal.
boat
8
shed,
boats within their family,
not a net
Mhm,
shed.
mhm.
I guess. That's what I read.
Have we been
Yeah.
ding?
Just to clarify, the code is net house. A boat shed or a boathouse is only on tidelands. So that's just the way the code defines things, and so I just follow
But
what the language that the code uses. So if you're talking about a boathouse, then it would have to be on the water, and it's not. But a net house is uplands. It's for fishing gear as defined in that staff report.
and a boat would be considered fishing gear in that,
Well, I
Under
provided
that-
you the definition.
so it's, okay, so they could use it for boat storage.
I provided you the definition. It's in the staff report.
Okay.
That's up to the
I'm just
commission's
trying to
interpretation.
clarify. Thank you,
They use it
Liz.
for paid boat storage. I mean, can they rent the space out to people to park their boats in this?
That's not,
It's a residential use. No, they should not be leasing it out. You know, you could apply for a home occupation permit, which is like a home-based business, but a home-based business should not have anything obvious externally that shows it's a business. So I suppose if everything was inside of the structure, they could apply to the commission for a home occupation, and that would be up to you whether to grant that or not. I think it actually is too big, you know, I mean, you're limited to 525 square feet for a home occupation. It's also not their home, so it doesn't really quite fit into that box under the code in a residential area. So in general, I would say probably not.
so I have a
Unless first-
question.
Yes.
I have a
Heather.
question too. If it's in a residential a residential zoned area, if it's zoned residential, can you have an accessory building without a residence on it?
No,
And is this considered an accessory building?
no. This is a conditional use allowed in a residential area. You can have a standalone boat house or a net shed. Other things are like, trying to think of what else is a conditional use in residential, that's standalone. And some places like a mobile home would be a standalone conditional use. So you can have that use if the commission approves it. It doesn't have to be alongside a house like an accessory use would.
Thank you.
I have a question too. On page 52, it shows 8 bays. Will these be garage doored or will these be open?
I don't have an answer for that. It's not clear in the
You'll have to go up to the microphone if you want to say that on the, and state your name, please.
They're open walls. It's just a roof shelter to keep the heavy weather and snow off things. I've got 3 or 4 boats. My son has 3. And I have a couple small pieces of equipment that we don't have room to park in out of weather that we wanted to park there as well. That again, I see all the warehouses up and down Cornelius all have variances on all of them. I helped build a few of them. They store everything you can imagine, equipment and everything else in them, along with their nets and we got a power skiff that we've been working on all winter. We're gonna put in it to keep it out of the weather, for moving a small barge that we have for going back and forth to Thomas Bay, to the latest Thomas Bay projects that my son and his wife are involved in, building cabins. Our shop is clear full of things for that, but that's mostly what we're planning to do there. Boats and gear and various little vehicles. 4-and-4 Rental has 3 or 4 vehicles there that they've acquired over the years. Renters just left and they didn't want to take them to the dump, so they're parked there right now. Sitting in that lot in the open, going to the weather as everything else does around here.
Is there a reason why you haven't scooched the building back a little bit so it's not quite so close to the road?
Well, it's got enough variance for the fire hydrant, I believe, but I'm quite familiar with that. The 10-foot variance, the fire hydrant is clear out beyond the property line, so it would be within from 10 feet from the fire hydrant, but it
I'm not
shouldn't
talking about
affect
the
it.
fire hydrant.
What's that?
I'm not talking about the fire hydrant. It's not shown on the map, so I can't even
It's right there at
entertain
the
it.
property corner, right behind the pole at the beginning of the lot behind us of, I forget the fella's name. He works for the Forest Service, nice fella. We're gonna be 10 feet from the back fence, his fence behind there that we've ditched and maintained drainage there. The city completely re-ditched all of Cornelius a year or so ago and put new culverts in and a whole bunch of drainage improvements. So they did a lot of work a couple of years ago there. Yes, it's 4-and-4 Rentals personal lot they bought, but
Would you also just state your name into the microphone? for the
Michael
record?
Etcher.
Michael Etcher, thank you.
I'm Josh's father.
Question, so you're storing boats and equipment inside of a building that contain fuel. Is there a fire code of any kind there? Building code? I mean, is it enclosed or you did say
It's
it's
an open
enclosed?
air, just a roof, no walls.
Okay.
It's not gonna be any end walls on it? I mean, it's gonna be end walls and a back wall, correct? And then
We
just the
didn't
open
plan
bay.
on putting a back wall unless we put it closer to the property line, then we have to put a fire code sheet rocking.
Yeah, so you're far enough away where you don't have to
We
do
shouldn't
that
have to,
application.
no.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for you enlightened me a little bit there, Mike. Thank you. I may be considering voting for this. Thank you.
All right, do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Roll call?
Marita,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Philip, Chris,
Yes. Okay. Do we have a motion on the variance?
Yes,
Second
Mr.
one.
That's the
Chair.
second one, yes.
I move to approve application for a variance from the rear yard setback requirement to allow for construction of a net house within 10 feet of rear property line at 112 Cornelius Road, along with the findings of fact.
We have a second
Second.
discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think this is the one that is asking for a larger building by about
20 feet.
20 feet, so,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just trying to get it straight in my
Yeah, it
head.
adds another 600 square feet to the building.
Yeah. Now, does that meet building codes? You said something about,
Well, as long as you're using it for just storage, it shouldn't be an issue. If they start doing any kind of work in it, which they're not supposed to be in residential zoning, then you would run into issues of fire. That's the big concern. Is if you start, well, we're gonna go do a little welding or something out there at a building that's bigger than that, it can create an issue with fire. And I've run into this in the past years ago when I was contracting, on buildings that, people wanted to make things too big, without meeting the fire code, and it can be an issue. Do you want to answer any questions on this?
Not sure if we were gonna even have power, but depends on if we wanted to keep anything warm there, but we got a 60 by 80 shop
Yeah.
on the other side in our commercial industrial. That's where we do all of our welding, cutting, and all of our fabricating, all of our business stuff and our working on equipment, which we do a lot of. I'm involved in all of it, but no, we didn't plan on working on anything there, just trying to keep it out of the weather in Petersburg. We all know how that is. That's the primary purpose of this thing that I've talked about for 10, 15 years. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion?
So are we are we voting that's gonna be 10 feet from the property line?
That's what we're giving them the variance to go 10 feet from the front and the back property line.
I myself would like to see the code met. I'm not so fond of the variance.
under B on this variance criteria, there's two no's. There are exceptional physical circumstances. That's a no, and the strict application of provision of this title would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships, and there's a no there. But then there's a yes on unlikely granting the setback would be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. And I wasn't quite sure what the yes meant. Maybe Liz could help us out with that, if you're the one that made that determination.
Yeah, since there's gonna be a 10-foot setback, it's gonna meet fire code. It'll be, has enough of a separation between the surrounding properties. It meets the 10-foot setback on the side yard. And the property line actually is in the middle of the road. And then there's a 20-foot easement where it's a no-build area. So they're gonna be at least 30 feet from the middle of the road. So again, I don't see an imminent public health or safety issue around that. But with the other criteria, my interpretation is it doesn't meet those.
Thank you.
Any further questions, discussion? Yes.
So do we know, is this road built to city specs as far as width goes? So in the future, if they wanted to widen it,
No, it's not built to city specs, as I understand,
Considered a pioneer road.
since it was put in before the city had jurisdiction in that area.
yeah, quite a while ago.
So,
Is it on where it's platted to be the road? You go to the next road over where Rocky's Marina is, up that street, that road is not even where it's supposed to be. And it sort of makes me nervous
Well,
on this application here.
there's an easement for the road, but that's, not, the easement's off of the property line. It's not, and it's not as wide as it normally is given for a road, for roads in the borough, so, as I understand it. So. Any other discussion, questions, comments?
I'll call the question.
Okay. Roll call, please.
And I just wanted to ask Liz, did they have to make B the variance criteria? Those that are checked no, do they have to give a reason why they would be yes?
Thanks for asking. Yes, you'd have to change the reasoning to show how the variance request meets those criteria in order to approval.
Thank you, Liz. We don't have to do that unless we vote yes on the roll call.
Correct.
correct?
If it passes, then you'd need to,
Okay,
Make
that's
those
what I wanted to
determinations,
clarify.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Roll call, please.
Chris,
No.
Marita,
No.
Sally,
No.
John,
No.
Philip, Heather,
No.
Okay. Moving on to non-agenda items. Commissioner comments? Anybody have anything? Okay. Liz, any staff comments?
I could tell you how much fun I'm having in Mexico.
That's not
But
fair.
beyond that, nothing.
We don't want to hear it, Liz.
Exactly, exactly. So I will refrain from any comments.
All right, thank you. Our next meeting is April 9th at noon. Any idea who all's gonna be here?
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I think I'll be here.
Okay. So it sounds like we're gonna have a quorum, so that should be good.
Jim should be back.
Jim should be back. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.